Welcome everyone, thank you for coming back. This is day 10, Canto 10 of HellWard. We've been through a whole lot of personal experiences, starting off with a near-death experience in hospital and meeting a whole lot of people in my life that have caused me problems one way or another. And the last canto was actually moving away from the personal more to the political. And we looked at the Iraq War and some of the ramifications in hell that I found there when I visited. Now we come perhaps to the most political yet emotional topic of all, namely Brexit, which completely polarises this country. So Canto 10 of HellWard is called Brexit. And just before I read this to you, you need to know one small thing that I've adopted from Dante, because Dante, when he went to hell, he found there were actually people there who were still alive. And the explanation he gave as to why they were in hell, but he knew they were living up above the ground, was that they were already dead in their souls. They'd actually gone to hell, and some evil demon was now up there in their bodies, and they were going through these puppet motions of being alive, but really they had been completely forsaken. Canto 10. So, almost before I could realise what happened, Blier dropped into black heat, and the arms holding him to cauterise his shadow and hope to slay his soul's seat if but the universe permitted such, drew down as others rose swiftly to meet the surface for a moment where their blotch of being stained the nimbus of the dark, which, for all their screams, held them in its clutch. Of Blier, no trace, not even a mark was left where just before he seemed to speak. This realisation, brutal and stark, served only to drain me further. So weak, I turned exhausted and totally wretched to where my guide, who'd been there for my sake, stood solid, godlike, with his arms outstretched, and into their comfort I propelled myself, aching to feel existence unattached to horrors here, as was this fading gulf. And thinking so, as my whole weight went slump against my teacher, I found his soul's stern proof could hold me up, and its energy jump-started my body with a vital power, as null and dull myself, and he the lamp whose lighting charged, and which no time devoured, diminished, circumscribed in any way. For in 1 second I saw all the hours compressed into a zodiac of sky, and then a thimble for a humble thumb, and I caught, breathless, how can I say, some figureless form that made my mind numb instantly. Then my spirit and soul, awe-struck, cried out, but in words completely dumb, reaching across the arc of nothing, for what had I seen? Tell me, I murmured, hoarse, depending on the great poet, my mentor. Rest now on me, he said, and save your voice. I know your thoughts and what you wish to know. With all this misery, where is heaven's course? How far is it that we still have to go? As words failed me, I nodded in assent. Then something like breathing began to flow from Dante out to me, and as it went it seemed that I and Dante became one, that we were joined, our spirits somehow blent. What Dante saw was now what I looked on. Before, at some impossible height, a door that we might reach at last, and all be done. And as it opened suddenly, its glare of light flashed, blinding me, already mute. But now my mortal eyes could not endure the sight. So, speechless, blind, I felt his feet move forward into that light where mass evaporated, and instead a beat began, all depth, the tuning fork in bass, at which vibration what was, is entrained, and will be too, aligns in its light space. Sightless, yet feeling through Dante's brain a flood of joy, strong as Niagara Falls, drenched through me, flushing out all sense of pain. The more it rushed, the less that I felt full, the more capacity I seemed to have, and other sounds began, notes and a call which whispered as remote as from a cave my name, but not the name I knew myself, a name unknown, yet one my being craves. As I heard it, my eyes as if by stealth stole in the light, and I began to see, slowly at first, they returning to health and seeing, but not our reality. For one instant I saw who loved me, infilled with such a faultless light, all visionary, a holy company of women and men awaiting me, and round their heads rainbows of colours beyond the earth's narrow span, and in their very living all life glowed. They looked on me as one who was their child, forever theirs to love, and be it so. I gasped for breath, and once more sought to hold my Dante, overwhelmed by beauty there, too conscious my presence somehow defiled that holy place, so holy, and somewhere I should not, could not be. And with that thought, Dante's footsteps went into a reverse, and backward stumbling, losing what I'd caught, I heard the door click shut, and me bereft of such a love, abruptly now cut short. So heaven itself seemed subject to theft. The maker of all had an empty hand, and all life's glory finally was less and lost. To loiter here then with the damned, I looked around. One road back to black heat, and one ahead to deeper, desolate lands. What did this mean, and how escape this pit? Now Dante took my hand and simply said, "Be still, your soul. Your destinies to meet again, and twice, those above who are dead, but live forever through him who broke through these evil corridors, him whom death dreads. There is a mansion, be sure, and for you they wait, as you saw, before your doubt reared its head. Now let's go, there's further below." And as I scanned his face, I thought a tear ran down his cheeks, immortal though they shone. Had he succumbed to all the sickness here? But then I realised that I was wrong. Transported back to heaven as we had, for those few moments, reproduced its song in Dante, who now, untouched by any bad, could not but feel the joy to which returning here made contrast, because here all was shade, or else was lost in tinder of its burning. But just the knowing heaven is above, forever, always, how could not his yearning soul not respond in feeling of that love? I choked myself as this awareness struck, and to disguise quickly began to move. But with celestial spirits, no such luck, for Dante knew, as his tear quite transformed itself, and what was sorrow's engraved track now seemed a diamond, though rough carbon wound, with all the brilliance, clarity too, of something simply immortally born. I need say nothing now, for he just knew. His diamond like a lens absorbing light, which at the same time showed me through, and to myself therefore, still lost in night. But moving forward meant repentance wait, for soon enough would be at our next plight. I felt the air menaced with more than hate, some deeper level of evil, more cold and calculating its approaching fate. Ahead, an architecture striking, bold, symbolic of one who living had sought to build colossal unity which held Europe infected. A virus caught through violence, swathes of levelling law by which mankind's deceived and all sold short. Equality, brotherhood, the cause, and liberty too, they to outdo God in goodness human, secular in source, and there he was, bicorn cocked at an odd angle, and on an island all his own, except a shadow sleuthing, glowing red, as if some twin who shared a common name, with above him stone, monumental, carved, proclaiming forever his brutal shame, a mouth opening for the shadow it served, wailing, "Napoleon! Europe expects! Return! Finish the task from which you swerved! An omen then, a god in that stone tract, but not Athena, no. I'd no idea, so turned to Dante, puzzled, perplexed, his finger pointing, mind already there. Now watch, he said, and see the only devil this emperor worships. You know him, Ares. I gasped and saw redden further and spiral right round Napoleon's form and through his heart, the one who stirred those vicious two more evil. How Boney shook, as fit to fall apart, the while in low and guttural tones, and reddening further and deeper as he probed to hurt Boney, his agent, voice always threatening, till Boney, held unbearable in suspense, at last let loose his scream with its deadening precision. Only Dante never winced. I ducked, as if some missile shot my way, which, if it touched, I'd die, follow, convinced. My mind would lose itself as a dog strays and finally finds 10,000 marching men, all bent on virtue, and each dog his day. The women too, but no time to see them. His curse cry led one carnage to the next. I saw the Kaiser, lost in futile dreams, his withered arm, his soul of no effect, as grasping Europa, still she escaped. Beyond them all, though, one whose cruel lex extended from France to Russia's rape, now in a bunker where Berlin breaks down into fragments, mosaics of a shape, and so Adolf, who'd once worn Europe's crown, now seen, blasted into blown smithereens which held his semblance, figured in dead bones. They had in common, all these hateful has-beens, one book in which their dream was written large, Ares, the author of these destructive scenes, that from his very loins all poison urged Europa fall, be taken overwhelmed by one dictator whose seamen surge till at the topmost point of time's packed helm there'll be the loyal lieutenant, Ares man, all Europe his, and all Europe one realm. But violence exhausted no longer spanned the continent. Others had their work to do. I looked and saw their faces, what they planned. Preachers of peace, who in the darkness glowed with deeper angers than even Hitler had, awaiting time when for their God they'd show their faces' true aspect in all its mad. There was the man who, when it's serious, lies, determined to bury Britain with his spade. Beside him, Tisk, who, busy swallowing pieces of vomit, morsels baked brown in his own guts, regurgitated them, and, with loose feces they loved, like longing lovers, Bunker, he, put sickening through their own beings. In the gloom, the nausea even kept Boney's eyes shut. And more. The English traitors in the room. I saw them. Swindle, Minor, Bezeltine, her primping herself with Brussels perfume, like some sow thinking ditchwater white wine, intoxicated by bacteria drunk, the memes, acorns, cliches, high-pitched wine, till like a full-fed hog sat clueless and stank. As Minor huffed and puffed considered opinions, which paltry phrase just made his views more rank and odious, which he knew, as one with onions under his eyes must weep and weep without reserve, because nothing he'd done was done. All half-truths, evasions, get-outs and buts, pure compromises, equivocations, deals with one design, to keep the British shut down in a place where nothing, no one heals. Where are we? I cried out. What is this place? Minor's greyed eyes lifted like two jellied eels, and jellied tears congealing stuck to his face in hideous caricature of real grief. Answering weakly and with no trace of true commitment, authentic belief, he said, "In my considered view," and then his voice dropped off, as from a tree a leaf floats free and vaguely drifts into the wind. So Minor now could make no sense of it. Europe had addled his wits destroyed his mind, just darkness left and sitting eating shit. Then Dante interposed to clarify. All hospitals have beneath them deeper pits where hot incinerators burn and try to rid the souls of their infectious fevers, but none of these so self-important eyes can ever be free. For them heaven is never available. Like Arachne with her webs, thinking to outwit the goddess as a weaver, so they rage with stories, seemingly with legs, until at last caught out, compete with wisdom, who would, who's sane? They fade as power ebbs in death, and that eternal law holds them. Forever spinning, but all pointless babels, building no living fabric, but a tomb in which all that is human is disabled. I felt a roaring heat ahead, approaching, that would consume all woken, self-labelled and virtue-signalling hypocrites, all cringing as fire that washes them to finer grey advanced. We must be gone. No time for lingering, said Dante. Your body will burn like hay. But Bezeltine, suddenly, a dying owl, hooted his final threat to earn his pay. Cowards and racists all, little England's foul. His mace, his arm could barely wield, fell backwards, puncturing his chest while splitting his soul. So there he lay, exposed on the fire's track, which now almost upon us, its heat singed my hair, and up my body its first flax surged. Leap, dear Dante shrieked, and so I jumped, and just in time, behind the second wave fried every soul whom Europe had unhinged. But falling where I did, one still alive, I heard, rebuking punishment, insisting on order, order. I turned in the cave into which I'd fallen to see, resisting a 1,000-year destiny, the British will, one evil, pot-faced toad, great at oppressing all brethren, women too, fated to sit still and suffer his commands. Such was Barkwoe, a traitor suited, fitted for such ill. But even he, what really did he know? This heat unleashed, no spell of his could stop. Indeed, he gasped in agony, all aglow, and turning grey, not even green to rot, his powdered form flaked down to its job lot. Thank you very much.